Hey, this is Rochelle Stratton, and you are listening to Kevin with Where the Weird Ones Are. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
What's up, you fucking weirdos? Welcome to Where the Weird Ones Are.
Yeah. Weird ones only, we talking that truth. Ghost in the attic, yeah, show me the proof. Aliens creeping, they light in the roof. Minds wide open, we shatter the booth. Conspiracies deep, we dig in the scars. Demons and angels and bodies on Mars. Cryptids be watching, they lurk in the dark. Mental on edge, but we glowing like stars. Welcome to the pod, no cap, it's a seance. Whispers in the static, spirits doing dance. Reptiles in suits, yeah, running the lands. MK Ultra made a puppet of your mans. When they go hunger, dogman strut, flat woods, eyes glow. Slice through the cut, Bigfoot tagging trees. Marking the trail, weird ones ride, no room for the frail. Talking about trauma, talking that soul. Peeling back layers, we digging a hole. Sacred geometry, numbers align. Ancestors speak through the veil in the sign. Ayahuasca dreams, third eye lit. Shadow self lurking, we making it spit. No mainstream lies. This the dirt where the weird ones rise from the blood and the hurt. Weird ones only, we talking that truth. Ghosts in the attic, yeah, show me the proof. Aliens creeping, they light in the roof. Minds wide open, we shatter the booth. Conspiracies deep, we dig in the scars. Demons and angels and bodies on Mars. Cryptids be watching, they lurk in the dark. Mental on edge, but we glowing like stars. Voices in the woods got chills on the neck. Black-eyed kids at the door, now we check. CIA tapped in, fluoride drip. Project Bluebeam, watch that script. Talking about grief, talking about fear. Talking about why them voices appear. Healing the mind while breaking the chain. Spiritual warfare deep in the brain. We don't run from the strange, we live in the strange. Tattoo the truth in the scars and the pain. Stay weird, the mantra we own in the name. Reality bent, so we bend to the same. From the attic to the swamp, we tracking the freak. Where the veil get thin and the silence speak. We ain't your norm, we off that grid. Weird as the wave, yo, this where we live.
What's up, you fucking weirdos? Welcome to another episode of Where the Weird Ones Are. My name is Kevin, but you probably already knew that, and if you didn't, now you do. And this is Charlie. Say hi, Charlie. Say wave. You see yourself on the camera? See yourself on the screen over there? Hi, everybody. Today's episode is with a woman by the name of Siren Wind. She's an amazing person, actually. Exactly, Charlie, exactly. My thoughts. My thoughts exactly. Um, so she is a energy healer. She has a website here called Intergalactic Energy Healing.com. You can go check all of her stuff out over there if you're interested. Also, she has books and she's go check out her website. You won't be disappointed if you're into that all that stuff. She's a wicked sweet lady. I really enjoyed talking to her. Um, Charlie's going crazy right now. Um, but yeah, she was a lot of fun to talk to, and I she was sipping from a cup with a Bigfoot uh on it, and I didn't even think to ask her what her thoughts on Bigfoot was until after we were done recording, and she had some interesting things to say. So I do think I'm gonna and eventually have her back, but the time difference between us, we had to reschedule several times, so it might be a little bit before I get her back on again anyway. Quick shout out to the sponsor though, Flavors of the Forest. Raw garlic dust, really good. Charlie agrees, obviously. She's super excited. I don't know if she's just excited about what I'm talking about or the fact that she can see herself on the video here. But Flavors of the Forest. You can check them out, flavorsforest.com, or you can follow them on Instagram at flavorsforest. It is really good raw garlic dust. I love it. I put it on just about everything. Very potent, and you're not going to get anything at the store that is going to be as good tasting. Um, so also shout out to my buddy Johnny Knight. He also has a company called Wild Beauty Products. So wildbeautyproducts.com. and you can get all their moisturizers and lotions and all that stuff. Um, Highly recommend it. I really enjoy using it. She's been quiet this entire time until I turn this camera on. Oh my goodness gracious. Um, if you guys have any experiences that you want to talk about on the show, you can hit me up on my email where the weird ones are at gmail.com. You can find me on Instagram where underscore the weird ones are, or send me a message through my website where the weird ones are podcast.com. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, check out Siren's website. It's a lot of fun to look at. She does a lot of things. So check her out. She's a phenomenal person. She's such a sweetheart. I really enjoyed talking to her, and I hope you guys enjoy the things that she has to say. Um, she's for sure an interesting person. Where the weird ones go production. Here we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Where the Weird Ones Are. My ring light is out, so it looks a little funky over here, but that's okay. I have my computer over here, so we got a little bit of light, so you at least can see my face and the creases, and you can see the bags under my eyes and all that. But anyway, so I have a lovely guest tonight. Her name is Siren Wind. And I love that name. It's I don't know why. I remember when we first became friends on Facebook, that I was just like intrigued by your name so much. I was like, I have to like check like to look and see what she's about. And turns out you are an amazing person. And I really enjoy what look I mean, you post like a whole bunch of like visual pictures and stuff like out in where you live in and all that stuff. And I think you posted a bunch of pictures of some crystals and stuff, which I love crystals. Um but so spirit always seems to bring me to people that I know. Like I just like energy guides me in a way. And I just knew that I had to talk to you. And I noticed that you were an author, so I definitely wanted to open up with that. But before I do that, if you don't mind letting the listeners and or viewers know just a little bit about you and what it is, some of the things that you do.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me on. First of all, it's great to be here with you for the invitation. And I started actually when I was very young with art. Like I was drawing since I think about three was what I was told. Layering colors and geometries, and I would play with sounds with my voice while I was creating. And I was like, I was fascinated by creating anything from nothing. So I would explore through the geometries what I was creating, and also watch the colors change the energy. Like I could feel that that was changing the actual energy also as I was, singing and creating the art. So that began with art, very young. And further down my exploration, realizing how powerful the energy transformation was through sound, that I started working with energy with people, offering energy sessions, working completely intuitively, not trained by anyone, but feeling the energies very intensely on the different layers is how I would reference it, different layers, like multidimensional layers of the energy fields. And with each person, I could feel different things going on, and I would use my voice to tone and to sound and to shift the energy with my hands as I was doing that. And I could see how that was correlated to the geometries I was seeing when I was little, and how that it was like an inner knowing that was further evolving as I was evolving to have that aha moment, like, oh, that I see how that correlates into what I was already discovering or re-remembering in that way. And the books were like a side parallel to the art as a visual reference for activation and healing. So the way that I started creating the books was with the art, and I would write. I would write certain pairs of different words together because I could see how the rhythm was activating and amplifying the art. And I would put the art that was created while I was writing the poetry together to amplify each other. So there'd be this flow between the rhythm, the rhythm of the words, the activation of what the words mean, the energy in the words, and also the art, the energy in the art, through sounding and toning and doing the geometries in the art. That also had layers of like light code, light language, which is also activating. So they just unfolded over different areas that I was traveling or places that I were for the intentions of the books, because they were sparking different things through the artwork. So like one is all similar to what's behind me, where it's all watercolor art and poetry, which was the first one. And then the second one was created on a completely different ley line of the earth, where I could feel different crystals, different people there, different geology, different information. And I was creating it differently. So it was all black and white, and it was all geometric templates. And I was calling that origination templates, like how things were when they were pure, before anything was, like what that sound was creating, and then how that looked like in art, like what the visual reference was in correlation to the energy. So it's like the blueprints of that. But each book is vastly different and has a different intention, was created somewhere differently, but there's 6 of those. And aside from that, too, I create meditation, like downloads, so people can experience frequencies through my voice as like a download tool for meditation activation, in addition to the energy sessions that would be, one-on-one or with groups. So there's all these different tools people can use on their own, or, individually, specifically for them. But the books were and are like amplifying tools. People can use them as journals. They can spark their own, say, light language. Sometimes people have had remembrances of things as they're looking at an image. One woman said she saw something when she had a near-death experience.
Oh
When she
wow.
saw the codes and the drawing, she said, "I've seen this before." So what could be experienced is so unique to each person.
That's amazing. First of all, the I was when you first started talking about the art that you did, I was gonna ask you once you were done talking if that behind you was one of those, because that's really pretty. I like the way that it flows with all the colors. Um so your books are of your art and all that? Is that
Yes, they all have art, and they're all paired with words. So there's
right?
geometry, inspirational word, or like activating words, but there's also a lot of them have numbers, like different numerology and different activating codes within them also.
I got you.
So, like for example, one of them is black and white, and it has mostly geometry blueprints, which could just be, referenced as, like a geometric template,
Hmm.
sometimes referenced that way. And like, for example, this one is in a book all with full color watercolor art that goes with each poem, and they were created at the same time. So the poem will literally, like, amplify what's being experienced by the art in whatever way it would for, anyone experiencing the art, but it literally amplifies that. And it's talking about, each poem is talking about different spirituality learnings, like how to alchemize or how to learn on earth through different polarized experiences, essentially, is because it was my perception of perceiving an experience that it's like, well, how can I transform that into something different, which is also in a way what art is doing, transforming, this shape into that design with a different, a different geometry or a different intention, a different color blend, and it was like this really interesting exploration of, well, how can we really do that visually, but also with the energy and amplify it with the word also.
Wow. That That's cool. That's cool. I definitely have to check that out for sure. Um, that sounds amazing, and I hope everybody at home listening gives her books a chance too. There's so many because there's so many facets to spirituality and energy and all that. Um, and I think it's all fascinating. I enjoy all of it. I prefer. I feel like I prefer nature over people for that's like 100% I'm like 100% sure of that at this point. Um and I just when you were talking about poetry just a minute or two ago, and I find like some kind of like a rhythm, it's almost like a heartbeat when I don't hear anything modern, um, when everything is just the way it was intended. You know what I mean? It's almost like it's reading me a poem on its own. And sometimes I see developed areas um, developed by humans. Um, and I always think, I was like, I wonder what this spot looked like before we got here all the time. Um, And I often wonder if anybody else thinks that way too. Um, and I wonder if that's um like some kind of callback to like our ancestry from way like maybe back in the day when our first people that were related to us stepped here and was like, this looks amazing. We should leave it the way it is. And then eventually they were like, oh, let's put buildings here or something like that. Um, but yeah, so I wanted to ask you about intergalactic energy. What does what that means for the listeners and all that, if you could break that down.
Sure, that's a wonderful question. The typical way, I guess, if you want to say it that way, typical being intergalactic is how people usually reference it, like, going either outer galactically, out to outer space, or intergalactically when they're talking about it. But if we're looking at intergalactic, it's going within ourselves. And the references to are all infinite galactic beingness, meaning that everyone is from somewhere, has been to different systems, different star systems, or a conjunction of them, or they go to different places on, missions or something astrally when they're sleeping. So there's this vast array of our galactic, like, inner knowing,
Hmm.
and within, when we're discovering and excavating and uncovering ourselves as we're opening to discover who we are, we're doing that from within, but we're also activating our galactic dormancies, which we all have in our DNA. And a big part of what I do when I'm working with energy, even though it's working on all these multidimensional layers, it's working very deeply with the cellular systems and the DNA, because that's where all the mapping, you want to say, or the blueprints, the instructions are. That's where all of the galactic information is, within that library. So um, the intergalactic comes from there, but it's also where we come from.
Amazing. That's I I guess when I did read the inner, I had always assumed that it meant something within us. So for you to clarify that, thank you. Um, and so you help people along with trying to look within themselves? Is that that's what you do?
Yeah, well, alongside with this, like, let's say if it's a session, a frequency session that would work with sound,
Mm-hmm.
tone, and light, there's also integration discussion. There's courses and presentations that I offer also that where we talk about what these concepts are, because a lot of it is really a concept until one can actually understand it or implement it or integrate it within their own experience. Because if we
Mm.
look at, for example, galactic, our cosmic nature, well, the question then becomes for a lot of people, well, as they're evolving, how do you integrate that into being a human, though, and being on all these planes at once? When they start to open to different experiences or even, terrestrially, if you want to say it like, say they're seeing other energies, well, how do you integrate that into your experience here and also be focused and, organized, and even though there's structures that are reconfiguring, right? So there's
Mm-hmm.
different things that are, collapsing, restructuring, rebuilding. And how do we navigate that? And that's what a lot of the discussions and integrations are, alongside with the energy activations and the frequency activations, are to know how do we merge and unify all those aspects.
That's interesting. So I assume that you have had some amazing experiences which led you down this path. Have you ever astral did well, I assume you do, but I'm gonna ask the question anyway. Um, have you ever astral projected?
I actually had a lot of experiences since I was very small that what I would do is, I don't know if I would necessarily call it that,
Mm-hmm.
but I would think a thought, and I still would do this now, but I'm just very more specific about it now in a different way. Because, when you're small, you don't necessarily know.
Right.
But I would think a thought and I would just go there, and I wouldn't take my body with me, which, has another whole term, but
Mm-hmm.
I would just think the thought, and if it would feel like I was tuning to a different dimensional plane, and then I would just be wherever that, person was or that place was, or, dimension if it wasn't an actual physical place. So at first I was wondering, like, what just happened, like, what did I, but knowing that, well, it's the inner knowing, because I didn't learn it from somewhere, I just did it. And even the same with things like remote viewing. That's a new term for me. It's probably a new term people are talking about now too, but
Mm.
that's not how I, like, when I would perceive remote viewing, I look at it like that's what I was doing when I was little as a kid. Just with my thought, I would just remote view, and it was just like a normal thing that I thought everyone else could do. Or if they didn't, I didn't understand why they weren't. I was like, well, you can do that too.
Yeah, I would. I often wonder if like when we're dreaming, right? Like you did bring up dreams, I think. Um, and I think that we're just experiencing another realm per se. Maybe not every dream, because some dreams are really weird where I'm like, how would that be? How would that be another realm that actually exists? Um, but I often wonder if like when we're dreaming that we're actually somewhere else spiritually and not really here in our minds. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Well, I do feel that way also, where it depends on where, which experience it is, to where exactly you are, with your consciousness, like
Hmm.
where you would actually be if you're traveling to another place. Because sometimes it is almost like it's an alternate, um, reality in a way. At least for me, sometimes I'll see like very geometric um images, or think, or sounds and images, like it's a place where there isn't actual matter necessarily, but it's like a realm of frequency.
Hmm.
But is that really like a place that I am, or is that an energetic place? That's what actually I was just recently pondering more, and wanting to more specifically do is focus on that recall, that dream recall. So then you can really tune into, well, what exactly am I doing, or where am I exactly? And is that really, or is there something there that I'm you know, visiting, experiencing or creating to understand, because some of it is symbology, right? And it's not
Hmm.
necessarily like a thing that's going on. So is it a message, or is it actually occurring? I find it fascinating. And I think that's really important to explore, because as we are, at least in my perception, as we are continuously accelerating, we need to be more consciously aware of where we are at all these other places and times too. And also be able to bring that and us and all of us, consciously aware where we are, in all these different aspects, which could blow the mind of many people right now, or wherever they're understanding is. And that's why a lot of these things aren't known about, because if one would know that, all these different aspects of themselves and what they're doing there, it'd be a little bit confusing, being at the grocery store or something like that. Like, well, how do I do that? How do I navigate being in a car when I'm doing this other stuff?
Yeah, that's interesting. I would also have a meltdown if I was having one of those kinds of experiences while I'm like doing something mundane like driving or whatever. Um and I think that we are extremely special and a lot more special than, we have been led to believe. There's a lot of things that I feel like we used to be able to do that we just haven't been able to do just because of the modern society. And I really despise modern society. Um, and so there's this comedian, I don't know, you may have heard of him. His name's Theo Vaughn. And he was on the Joe Rogan show months ago now, maybe a year now. And he said something to him. He said something. I love bringing this up. And the listeners probably know exactly what I'm about to say because I've brought it up several times now. But he said, "Do you think that the wind is trying to tell us something that we don't know how to hear anymore?" And Joe Rogan just goes, "No." And then he's like, "Oh," and then he just like moved on to something else. But I think like because he's a very jokey person, like everything that he says is meant as like a in a joking manner, or the majority of the things that he says. And I think that that was taken like as he was just trying to fuck around. And I think he was being serious because I do think that maybe we could have heard voices in the wind or something like that. And which brings me to Pocahontas, the Disney movie, the song. She's like the whispers. Maybe she didn't say. I think she said the colors in the wind actually. Um, but again, like you can see colors with the wind if you pay attention long enough. Um, if you can tap into that, I think so. Yeah. Which is why I love what you do because I think helping people along this journey to help them ascend. Because I think I really honestly think, and I know I'm going on like here and there with this little tangent of mine, but I do 100% believe that our whole purpose is to give and feel love. Like this realm right here that we're in right now, that is that we're in, that we're talking on the interweb. Uh, I think that this is this realm is where having an experience that we're all connected in some kind of way, and that we are meant to feel and give love, and until we have what's the word? Unless we unify under, if we don't unify until we unify with love, we're just gonna continue this whole like crapshoot that we're experiencing. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's where all the paths are leading right now, especially with anything that's being seen and like rising to the surface to clear out is because our true nature is love. Like our divine and true nature is that pure and is that purity. And that's everyone, everything, everywhere. And all this other stuff that's been experienced at, different points, we're experienced to have, different array of learnings and experience and lessons and to discover, well, how to do this and that, or neutralize, say, uh, um, contracts. I guess, some people like that word, some people don't. But, I mean, basically, if you had an experience with another person or a group of people, at some point, you're going to need to neutralize that out and harmonize it. And one of these many reasons why we're here at this time, at least some of us are to neutralize anything that's ever occurred in those ways and come back into love and also help each other discover who they are in the way that feeling that their true nature is that too, because we're in bodies, right? We're in physical bodies that have all these sensorial possibilities where we can feel, sense, see, touch, tactile, and yeah, we can be in space, for eons and eons, but you don't have all those options and potentials to evolve your soul and feel that as you do right here. So it's a privilege to be here, to have those array of experiences, and finally come to give and receive love, no matter whatever the experiences were prior. Or or even during is to still find that way back home, which is in the heart.
Mm, yeah. You said it a lot better than have ever said it. Um, man, yeah, I, I wish, um, I wish more people would find it within themselves to, walk spiritually. And that, I mean, and I'm not saying like, you have to be, believe in a certain religion or anything. I think I think all religions have um some kind of trueness to them, I guess. If that can be explained there, but I think most religions, I don't I don't think I've ever heard of a religion that isn't, but most religions want, like, they emphasize love, like Christianity emphasizes love, even though some of their followers don't. But Buddhism's very love thyself, and protect nature and stuff like that. And I don't know. I think there's aspects of it all, and I just wish that people would look within themselves and realize that there's a bigger picture than the little picture of your hometown, or your home state, or wherever you are in the world. Um, and I like talking about the many facets that it could be, like, because I think that we're also intertwined by timelines, like, and you may not believe this, but if I mean, if you do, cool. But I think that we have, so like, you know that game where it's a bunch of sticks and you throw them and you got to try and take them out without messing the rest of them up, and they're just kind of like in a like all laying cricket like cross each other like 100 different ways.
I don't think so. But
Oh,
I can kind of get a feel for it as you describe it, though.
uh, so it's a bunch of sticks and they're in a tube and you just pull the tube off and they fall down and then you got to try and pick them up without moving the pile one by one. Um, but I played it when I was a kid, and I think that we are experiencing a whole bunch of different timelines at once. Where if something happens, we split off into this timeline. Like, so we're on a timeline going this way, and then X, Y, or Z happens, and we go either this way or that way. You know what I mean? But we still leave remnants for those other possibilities, I think.
Yeah, I understand. I understand what you mean, and I actually I feel that way, but I also feel that way magnified, where literally every choice, like any choice that we make,
Uh,
is literally doing that. So every moment we're say whatever frequency we're vibrating at, every moment is, pivoting into these different possibilities, and there really are infinite possibilities. And there's also what I believe too, and I think this might be kind of what you're referencing also, is that a lot of these other lifetimes and timelines, are merging or coming to union, or say there's certain parts to come and meet back up with the person, meaning like if there was a trauma somewhere in another lifetime, it's coming to say the experience is coming up and you're like, why am I remembering that? It's coming to, to accumulate the particles of awareness and wisdom to merge with you now so you can keep moving forward. And that even having a moment like that, or a whole bunch of moments of merging yourself with your current state of awareness, is also evolving your pivot. It's accelerating your pivot. So what you thought, last week, you had all these written down goals and things, or what you were going to plan for, but because you've accumulated all the rest of you and these aspects and all this knowledge and wisdom you had that you forgot about, now all of a sudden you're catapulted into a way swifter, faster evolution than you were of what you thought. So it's to me, it feels so important that we're maintaining and continuing to be wide open to what our potential is, because it really can be bigger than we thought, like from this morning,
mhm.
and so if we're shifting timelines and frequencies that fast, what we thought and who we even were this morning is vastly different than who we are right now, because we've already shifted out and in and over and and rotated in and through and beyond what I think many of us, not to speak for other people, but what I think many of us have come to learn from and through, that where a lot of us are evolving out of those, what we thought we would come here to do. And now we're looking for, well, what's next though? Because we're actually far beyond our acceleration point of what people thought could happen right
Mm,
now. And we've barely even yet begun to rebuild. It's like the future, if you want to say it that way, the ancient future of what we're embodying and coming into now is so much bigger than what people even believed could be. Like, this is really profound.
mm,
So, so I do agree with you there, and I do think it's vastly shifting, like in really every moment too, as we're choosing, when we're choosing, how we're choosing, or even those moments where things are falling away, right? Or friendships, connections, jobs, places you'd normally want to go but they don't resonate anymore, visit parks, whatever it is. But as you're refining to get into higher alignment, these other things are just naturally falling away. It's not like you have to have a kind of a difficult conversation. They just disappear, and it's like making that space for the next pivot, the next acceleration to continue to move you forward.
Hmm. Yeah. Yes. I like that. I mean, that's, you know, these it's a thought that's been actually I think I might have brought it up to a few other people, but most people they don't have like an in-depth thought about it like you just did. They're usually just like, yeah, maybe or something like that, which is fine. Um, I'm not poo-pooing them in any way. So if you're watching and or listening, I'm not saying that you're weird or anything. Although I am for sure, 100%. I know that. Uh, but I find everything about our potential um fascinates me. Um, and just like we were talking a minute ago about astral projecting or things like it when you were little and you just thought of being somewhere and you were there. Um, it's just I don't think that people realize how great we could be for each other if we just allowed us to be weird. If that makes sense. Um, because early on in a lot of our lives, I think a good portion of trauma base is from other people, just because they've been conditioned to one way, and then you're trying to talk about like, so say like you brought up to your parents that you thought of being somewhere and then you were there and they were just like, no, you weren't. That was just a dream or something like that, or you just you're just making that up or something like that. Like I feel like the modern world kind of puts us into a box and keeps us from either trying or allowing us to feel these things or to experience these things. Um, it's just like there's experiences that I had that I think are ghosts anyway, or elementals and stuff like that that I think are fake, but I remember them like they're real. And it's and I'm like, am I saying it's fake just because I don't want people to think that I actually believe it, or am I saying it's fake because I actually think it's fake? Like I'm not too sure. Um, and I just think there's a whole lot of pressure and I think that's a big reason why mental health is such a big thing right now. And people are struggling with their mental health all over the place right now. And I think modern society has that has us into these tight little boxes to the point where people are just like, "Ha, what's going on?" You know? Um, so I guess what I wanted to ask you with all that being said, have you had other experiences when you were younger or growing up or anything to where you felt like you couldn't tell anybody?
Well, most of them, Mo- most of them, to be quite honest. But I could sense energy really well and feel like very telepathically since I was also little. So I could feel who I could share certain things with, and then what level of information I would share. Like I could
Oh
feel
wow.
like certain people, are more like surface level and you get a little bit too more complex or about certain topics, and then they either don't know what you're saying, or they might shut down or try to shut it down, the conversation, right? So,
Uh,
but I could feel that right away, and most of the things that I was experiencing, I could totally feel like this is for later, meaning that like you have this experience now, and like pay attention and explore that, and see what is this about, but don't share this with people right now, because they don't either want to hear it, they're not going to understand it, or they're going to tell you it's different than what you experienced, and that was very clear to me from my intuition, and my intuition was always really strong. So to me, it was more important that I was, I say honing, but just being more centered in my own experience, because I could feel that most of the people around me had more of a surface level desire for connection, or discussion, even where it was more the not that there's anything you say wrong with mundane, but it was only going to go so far, and
mhm.
I wanted to dive to the depths of the ocean and all his needs. I was like, I don't think they can understand what I'm saying though. Like I could just feel that. Or even the geometries and the sounds and the things I was exploring, or what I was seeing, I would see symbols in the light, and I would look around and I'm like, I know they can't see that though. And I can feel that. And I would draw some of the things like that. I would draw some of these symbols in my artwork. And at the time I was in a grade school that it was a Catholic grade school. And the nuns were like, there were nuns there. And they were like, what are you drawing? Like, what is that? And I was with such certainty, like, just don't tell them. Like, don't don't tell them what you're seeing, because they don't even understand what you're saying, and I'm not, I was never about debating somebody's belief. Like I could feel some of the stories in the workbook stories weren't necessarily completely accurate.
Mhm.
Like, some of the figures were like, Mary is actually is someone that exists, but some of the stories about her or the way things happened, I was like, this isn't entirely correct though, because it doesn't have any energy in it. But I didn't want to debate and say, you're wrong, or it didn't happen this way, but it wasn't quite right, and it wasn't something I could accept as true for me.
Mhm. That's interesting. I think because Catholicism is from what I've heard, my dad was Roman Catholic. Actually, I think my whole dad's side is Roman Catholic, and I feel like that they believe more in to these kind of things like the supernatural things because they believe in possession and stuff like that. So they were the ones doing the exorcism. But I think I agree with you. I think I would have. Well, I mean, me as a kid, maybe not, but um, me now definitely would have been like, I'm not telling you what I'm drawing. What are you crazy? I don't know. I'm drawing lines. It's a line. They just end up looking like something. I didn't do it on purpose, you know.
Right.
Um, so how long did you spend in the what did you say it was a Catholic school that you went to?
It was up until I want to say seventh grade.
Okay.
So it's somewhere probably in the middle there, but yeah, about seventh grade. But I was just like, this isn't this isn't quite right. Something's not quite right. And even with like church um services, like they wanted you to go to church before the courses,
Mm.
and I didn't like the energy of going in there. I'm like, something feels off in here. Like something doesn't feel like it's quite right. Not like it's like unsafe, but just like I don't think it's something true, that what they're saying isn't really true in here. Like it's not quite right.
Yeah. I feel like I feel like trying to form the actual thought, but I feel like you don't organized religion, I think, is a big problem because I feel like um you don't need to organize in a building. Um, if God made the planet, like why would you build a building and worship inside of that? Like
Right. I know
you
it's kind of
have and I think that's why I love nature so much is because I feel at like if there is, which I'm pretty sure there is a creator entity, if there is one, that everything that he or she created was for us, and everything that we're creating is for us. You know what I mean? So what the creator created for us, I feel like is more special to me than what we've created for us. Uh, which is and that's nature, that's animals. That's I love animals. I mean, even though some of them do things that drive me crazy, like raccoons eating my chickens, that drives me crazy. But I mean, I know it's a circle of life, and then um my girlfriend's dog killed some of my chickens when we first started dating a couple years ago, and I was mad, but he's a dog. Dogs do dog things. I'm not gonna do anything about it, but yeah, so I feel like I don't understand the the inside of a building, which I mean, and I'm not, you know, putting down if you anybody I'm saying a lot, and I've tried so hard to stop doing that especially while I'm recording, but for some reason I just cannot help it. But for everybody listening, if you go to church and stuff like that, I'm not saying that you shouldn't. If that's what you do, that's what you do. It's totally fine. And I don't mean anything negative about it. This is just what I feel for myself. Just like Siren feels like she doesn't believe in the Catholicism of it when she was being told to go to church. It wasn't for her. And it's just like being in a building of worship for me at all, any of them for any religion just doesn't feel like I like the architect and stuff and like the some of the artistic stuff, but like for me, I would never go and worship inside of a building. That's just me. So if you worship inside of a building, that's you. That's how you want to do it. Um, but I just think what the creator has created should be enough for us. And I just think that, and I think it goes into like this energy battle, like that's within us. This is like a spiritual warfare kind of thing where um we're preferring our own creations over what was created for us. You know what I'm saying? Does that make any
Yeah.
sense?
Well, yes, because our intuition, I mean, and that's what we're discovering. It's not like this brand new thing, right? What
Hmm.
something feels like, and that's how we know if something's right for us. And the thing about, for example, what you're saying with going to church or not going to church or going here or going there, in nature and finding the same inner peace that you could find, say in a book or a library or a building, etc., is that really it's unique to the individual what's right for them. And a lot of these things right now that are changing, like, because there's massive change happening on all layers, and it's changing so that people are constantly and consistently reminded that they can make their own choice of what's right for them, and it's still going to be correct for them, even if somebody else is doing something different,
Mm.
and how they're finding their inner, say their inner worship or connecting with, say they're even calling a different name, the same energy, God, creator, oneness, all these different names is still the same energy, right? And none of those energies will be found in anything that can be bound, meaning that it wouldn't be in a box, which means it wouldn't be in a building.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody feels in their heart like they need to go specifically a certain time, to dedicate a certain amount of time or a certain amount of quiet in a place that they feel comfortable and peaceful and they want to go there, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with anything that they're choosing is right for them in that moment, but that also could change, that could change too as people are evolving, or as structures are changing. And even the way neighborhoods, we mentioned neighborhoods earlier, the way these neighborhoods, a lot of these, I shouldn't say a lot, but many neighborhoods that were built are on sacred ground, right? Because everything really is sacred ground, but some of these areas really shouldn't have buildings
Mm-hmm.
or shopping malls and things like that. So as these different worship centers go away and people are realizing that things are going to be rebuilt differently and rightly, where they're on the right harmonic structures, or they're on the right sacred geometric lines, or they're honoring the ley lines, or the sacred lands, or the native cultures, or how, so many layers of that too. But as those things are changing, that they can allow themselves to be open and change too, where they can find themselves and the connection with everything, all that is, source, creator, God, all the other names. They can find that anywhere, even while they're driving, or not driving, sitting on a park bench, sitting anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you can find yourself where you are within, you can find that, because it is you too. And that's the part of the restructuring, if you want to say it that way. But the rebuilding is that people are remodeling their own viewpoints. They're dissolving these boxes that they might have accepted, that they need to have these beliefs, or these uh, almost like hierarchies, where somebody's going to know more than you, right? They're your
Yeah.
teacher, or your God, or your priest, or your whoever. It's that your actual inner knowingness is the ancient awareness that you already have. And nobody can tell you that. You just have to tune in and connect to what's already within you. You're not separate. Um, Even though a lot of the confusion has been there's a separation and you need to reconnect. It's like, no, if you get quiet, you can actually see that you've never been separate. That's a confusion too. You just find that inner place to see and to hear and to feel what's always been there.
Mm. Right. Yeah, I get that. That actually, you know what that brings up a question that I have is, are you are you indigenous yourself at all?
Uh, no, I wouldn't say it that way.
No.
I would say I'm outdigenous. I would say I'm from a far, far away place. Not indigenous, but I I think you mean like culturally, right?
Yeah, culturally, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, no, I'm not.
Okay. For some reason I had this feeling that you were, and I don't know why. Um, but I do, because maybe it's because of your paintings, your drawings, because a lot of that culture is based on symbolistic art. Um, so it fascinates me when somebody just draws something and it looks like something that would come from, tribal member or something like that. So that's why I ask. And the culture, it seems like the people are t tend to be more spiritual rather than like organized religion like we were just talking about. Um but you mentioned it earlier while we were texting, and so now you bring it up now. So can I ask where you're from?
W- like where I was born, or
Yeah, yeah. Well, like, well, because you're
what
like,
do you
oh,
mean?
I'm from very far, far away, and you
Oh, I
kind
see.
of referenced it earlier. You're like, I'm not from here or whatever. So,
Um, Well, I do, and I know that many of us here right now are from a lot of different systems, different star systems,
okay.
and in different ways, right? There's different aspects of that and what we're bringing through. There's people that terminologize themselves as star seeds, which is much different than, say, somebody would be a hybrid or a different type of harmonic blend is the way I necessarily look at it with where we're from, our origination point, really it would be source. But I know
Right.
myself to be very galactic in nature, if you want to say it that way, but I've also been to many different systems and spent time or missions there. So this particular incarnation, what I recall most specifically, not where I'm from per se, because I still feel like my origination spark is from source,
hmm
but I haven't really been to Earth that many times. And when I have been here was very specific, um, important, you want to say important juncture points, everything is important, but very specific timelines. And this being one of them because of what's happening here. So I don't have a specific answer for you in that way because I have spent time on many different systems, but I haven't been to Earth very many times.
Okay. All right. That it makes sense and it doesn't make sense. If it so like so you're saying like you're different like past lives, right? Is that's what you're referencing?
Yeah, like having different earthly lives.
Okay.
We've most of us, to some extent, we've been on Earth before, right? In different lives or different timelines. Say somebody was here in the 1800s and then they were here in Atlantis. And I'm making this up. I'm not saying this is specifically my case, but different life, they come at different lifetimes for soul evolution or to accomplish certain things with certain team members or soul groups, to evolve, learn from, through things like that. And when I say
Mm.
that, that's what I mean is that I haven't been here that many experiences. Some people have had a lot of earthly experiences, so they tend to be more what I would call earthbound, where they have more earthly experiences continuously, where, they're working through kind of the same polarized things, right? So it's like, to actually evolve is to evolve past that. But earthbound has more of a almost like a comfort level
hmm
to those types of experiences, which I mean, even those experiences are evolving and accelerating too in this timeline. So that's going to evolve in its own way. But there's other of us, especially a lot of the new arrivals, like the babies and the kids that are coming now, are very galactic. Their DNA is very different, and they're coming in, full on active, which is very different than a lot of the experiences of those that are here now,
Mm.
in varying degrees, right? Because there's people that have certain amounts of DNA strands, and not everybody has the same strands or the same information in the strands in the DNA. So they're completely coded differently. So that's essentially, without getting too technical, that's the instruction manual in a way. That's where all the libraries of who that person is, what their mission is going to be like or what they want to accomplish is within those information codes. And so everyone's is very unique to their experience.
All right. That's interesting. Um, because I've always ever thought of past lives or reincarnation as just being like a earthly experience. I never even thought of it in that way. Um, so with that being said, do you think that like UFOs and aliens, like do you think that we're being visited and stuff like that from um other star systems?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think the ability for one or others to see that, to perceive how much visitation is actually or has been occurring, or even that's coming up to start to occur more frequently, that'll depend on, where their frequency is, if they can see that or feel that, because a lot of these things have been going on for a long while,
Mm-hmm.
and only certain people will see that or feel that or sense it or perceive it in different ways. But because our energy is accelerating, our bodies are changing, we're shifting, and we're activating our dormancies, we can actually see that and interact, and coexist and actually learn and evolve through technology together, which is the goal, part of the goal of what's coming, um, and what's, I mean, sort of been trickling in through the waves of what's been happening, and some of it's been hidden, right?
Hmm.
But that's been going on for a long while. It's just now it's undeniable, right? You can't deny it anymore.
Yeah. Um, in this life, this life that you're living now, have you ever experienced like I guess I'll use like the regular the or the most common term like an alien. Have you ever had an experience with any non-earthly beings?
Yes. A lot of, I mean, but almost daily, I would say, more
Oh wow.
recently. Yeah, I mean more recently, but that's due in part, anyways, in part to how I can sense and perceive. I don't necessarily see them with a body, but I can hear and communicate if it is with somebody that I wish to, of course, because
Hmm.
there's other beings that you don't necessarily need or want to desire to talk with or connect with, but it's literally, there's the possibilities and the dimensional planes really are a lot more infinite than people have believed for so long. There's not just 12D, right?
Hmm.
And we're saying we're going to 5D, meaning that dimension, but there's so many more dimensions than that. And there's energies, there's beings, collective energies too, that reside in those places, which sometimes isn't a place at all. And where you're tuned, like how you're tuning your energy, will be who you can connect with. And sometimes, at least for me, what my experience has been is if I'm thinking the thought about, like, say, an energy, a specific person, or say star system or whatever, as soon as I think the thought about it, I feel that tune to, it's like tuning the radio dial and then somebody picking, oh, well, actually, that would be a phone. You call a number. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. But you call a phone number and then somebody answers the phone, right? You have to have the coordinates correct of who you're intending to dial, and then them picking up. So that means that both frequencies need to be in alignment for it to actually occur. So if you were to call for someone and not quite on that same tune dial,
Uh,
you might not get anyone, or you'll get somebody different. So that's why it's important to know, say if somebody else shows up on the phone and you're like, but I didn't call for you, I didn't call for you. That's not, so you have the awareness, like, just because you're calling for someone, you need to be specific, and also make sure that's who it is.
Do you so when you call them, are you calling them to like help out with like say you when you're doing your readings and stuff like that is are you asking for like information or like what's the process there?
Well, I actually I don't I mean I was sort of using that as a metaphor for
Oh,
calling
oh, I
someone,
got you. I
but I
got
don't
you.
I mean because yeah, some people do actually do that. Say if they're like channeling I mean I don't know how to say I don't want to say what people do when they're channeling because this is different. But you know, if they're actually calling for someone or bringing someone through, to
Mm-hmm.
me that would be more that in that reference.
Yeah.
But when I'm talking about it, I'm saying like I'll think a thought about um, you know, say an energy, and then as long as you're on the same frequency bandwidth, it just innately connects. But that's actually very similar to how telepathy works, you know, where telepathy is you think a thought, it's out there, it's done. The only
Mm-hmm.
way that person will hear you at the time that you're sending the thought or thinking the thought is if you're on the same, you could say coordinates, but you have to be on the same frequency. Otherwise, somebody could say, well, yeah, I've been thinking about you all day, or I've been sending you all these thoughts, and you might not get any of them because you're not on the same bandwidth. You're not on the same dial per se. I mean, just using it as as an example.
Mm.
Um, so that does make a difference. You know, you could telepathically be attempting to communicate with people all day long, but unless you're actually tuned in and they're tuned to you, there might not be an actual exchange of information.
I got you. I got you. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Thank you. I was like, that's sort of like a metaphor, but a little bit different, more like an analogy. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Um, well, so where can people find the your books?
My books are on Amazon, Amazon.com. They're also available on like worldwide. So you can, if you look up um, through Amazon, like say for example the book titles, you can find them literally anywhere. On paperback, they're in paperback and Kindle for all six. And all the links to what the books are, like the titles, what you know what they're called. If you want to learn about the summaries, you can find those on my website, where it'll show the Amazon author page. You can discover all the details about the books and everything else there. So there's literally a whole page with description, and there's also a visual. I call it a video book tour, where I take each book and I page through and it's like I made it into a YouTube video so people can get a
Nice.
feel for the energy through the imagery and the art at the bottom of the books page on the website. So you can kind of, you know, kind of get an idea, and then you can go to the Amazon author page and read, well, what is that one about? What is this one about? Because they're so uniquely different. But the main website is inner, spelled like, where is that? Oh, my hand. Spelled like that, intergalacticenergyhealing.com. And that has information about what the energy sessions are like, what does it entail. There's video examples of little excerpts. There's the YouTube channel, the books. There's even a calendar page for the weekly events and then upcoming conferences and things like that. There's all kinds of information on there. So
Nice. Nice. I have one more question for you. Um, are you finding fulfillment in this life with all the things that you're doing?
I am. Yeah, I am. And what I'm enjoying now, especially more than the previous years, is that now that the energies are opening more and people are discovering each other, I can feel a very distinct difference with people connecting in person more now, which to me is really more exciting, and it's more amplifying when we come together in person or we collaborate, or like how we're doing on a podcast, we're sharing different perspectives. that excites me because then we get to meet each other because we've been working all these different places our whole lives.
Hmm.
And even though, like, I understand, being in a, say more in nature or more like a private place is more comfortable most of the time, for being in your own energy. But at the same time, we all came and we did come here to connect with each other. So when we do that, to me, that excites me even more because then I continue to learn. Um, and then we continue to like weave together too. So I like to do that.
Nice. Nice. Um, well, I've enjoyed listening to listen. I have this weird thing that happens to me sometimes when I hear certain people talk. Um, I guess it would be called goosebumps in a way, like where I get like these weird like tingles sometimes when I listen to them talk. And then this sounds super weird. Um, but I'll get like the like a faint goosebump and like this like I don't know how to describe it other than like this like it's like I guess it's like a chill and it like vibrates my brain. And it's and when you first started talking and a couple times while you were talking, it's happened to me. So I feel like I could listen to you talk about anything. So uh I guess I just felt the need to share that with you, that you have a very unique voice and I love listening to you talk. That's basically a
Well,
roundabout way of trying to give you a compliment, I guess.
well, I thank you for that. No, I fully receive that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Um,
Yeah,
well, it was amazing talking to you. I appreciate you doing this. It means a lot to me. I know, um, time is, our greatest currency, and it's really our only currency. Um, and the fact that you took the time out of your day to spend it with me means the absolute world to me, and I appreciate you.
thank you. I very much appreciate the invitation and connecting with you has been really beautiful and thank you so very much.
All right,
Yeah, thank
everybody. That is the show. Please like, follow, share, subscribe. I'm gonna put all of Siren's stuff in the show notes, obviously. All the ways that you can connect with her, get in her website and her book stuff. Um, which actually she just said it's right on our website, so our website's gonna be in the show notes.
you.
Anyways, if you don't mind, like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating and review. I would greatly appreciate it. If your podcatcher does not allow you to leave a review, you can do so on the website if you feel like you want to do it. Anyway, you don't have to, but if you want to, that's the options there. And that is where the weird ones are podcast.com. Also, you can get merch like the shirt behind me here. I have a ton of other designs. You can get hot sauce, coffee, and supplements, and also read some of my short stories I've been writing. I haven't written one in a new one in a while, but maybe I will get a new one down there soon. Who knows? I don't know. But other than that, I hope you guys have a beautiful day, beautiful night, whatever time you have decided to listen to this, and question everything and stay weird.
In the quiet of the night, when the world feels far, there's a voice through the static, like a falling star. It calls the misfits, the dreamers, the ones who see the shadows in the corners, the truth we barely believe. From the pine tree woods to to the desert skies. They talk of ghosts and aliens with wonder in their eyes, not afraid to ask the questions that others won't dare. 'Cause the world gets strange when you stop and stare. Come gather around where the weird ones are, by the fireside glow or a midnight call, where the stories run deep and the secrets fly like owls in the dark or stars in the sky. If you've ever felt lost like you don't belong, you found your place, you found your song, right here where the weird ones are. They'll talk of cryptids, time slips, and deja vu, of spirits that linger and what might be true. But more than the monsters, it's the people you'll find who dare to be open with curious minds. It's not about fear, it's the thrill of the ride, to question the world with wonder as guide. So pull up a chair, let your freak flag fly, we're the seekers of truth beneath the sky. Yeah, come gather around where the weird ones are, on the moonlit thoughts and cosmic scars, where the veil feels thin and the questions burn, and we chase the strange at every turn. You're not alone, not in the dark, you're with a tribe. You found the spark right here where the weird ones are. For the ones who wonder, for the ones who know, welcome home.